Hello, everybody. Andre Khatchaturian and Jason Takhtadjian here for the ASN podcast. It is Monday, March 10. Jason, what an amazing day it was on yesterday, Sunday, when the clocks shifted forward and the sun remained in the sky until 7:30 p.m. here in Boston. It was quite the
Uh,
sight. It was 58 degrees here today. Beautiful. Spring is around the corner. The flowers are blooming. Everything is blossoming. It is just incredible. The birds are chirping. They're coming back to the north. Uh, well, yeah, because birds fly south in the winter. They come back north in the spring. It's just incredible. Jason, how are you?
couldn't have thought of a better way to start the podcast. I'm doing good. That was quite the poetic way to start this. I'm doing good. We all know that spring is your favorite season
Actually,
now.
it's not.
Wow, you were convincing there, though, I will
Spring in
say.
New England is very miserable. It's usually very cloudy and rainy.
Mm,
So and then you
mm.
get this one nice day, it'll be like 65 degrees, and you think it does warm weather is around the corner, and then you have right after that, you'll have like 5 straight days of like 42 degrees and rainy and gross. Like today was a nice day. Tomorrow's supposed to be even nicer, but then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we're back in the low 40s and it's gonna be cloudy and rainy.
Ah, okay. Well, that doesn't sound all too great, but I
No.
guess we can shift our focus back to the world of Armenian sports, right?
And
We
it's
have
gonna
quite
continue
the
to be that way, by the way, like until
oh
like
yeah.
mid-May. Mid-May is when it finally breaks through and everything's fine.
Oh, so there's not a end is not near. Okay,
No,
I
it's
see.
not near. But it beats the snow, beats the cold weather. I'll take it.
I
And here's the other thing. Sorry, I keep talking about the weather. At least with winter, I actually like winter more than spring because with winter you expect it to be cold. Like it's 20
right.
degrees, but it's like, all right, you know it's supposed to be cold. You mentally prepare. And it's like nice. You see the first snow at the holiday season and everything. But with spring, it's just one day cold, one day warm, one day rainy, and it's very unpredictable.
Okay, understood. In California, I would say I like spring a little bit more than winter.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear it. Well, speaking of unpredictable, someone who's been very unpredictable in the world of Armenian sports has been Armen Petrosyan. He started his MMA career uh, very hot, winning 6 of his first 7 fights, and then getting signed by the UFC. So he entered the UFC 6-1. Another great Armenian fighter. February 22 was his debut. He got a split decision victory against Gregory Rodriguez to improve to 7-1. And then what did he do? He lost 7-2, but that's okay. He followed that up with 2 big wins, 8-2, 9-2, both unanimous decision victories. And then since then, it's just been all downhill. So it's been like a roller coaster. He had a submission loss to Rodolfo Vieira, a knockout loss to Shara Magomedov, and then on a Saturday night in Las Vegas, a bizarre performance for Petrosyan, and which ended in a submission defeat to Bruno Ferreira, his
Yeah.
third consecutive loss. And I say bizarre because first round he got deducted a point for repeated groin strikes. That was strange.
That was a little bit strange, and I get Armen Petrosyan is always gonna go for the kicks, but like that was a little bit odd and like completely threw the fight off as far as like its mojo. I know that the live odds were suggesting that Armen Petrosyan was like becoming a growing favorite, but like you said, odd fight, and it just ends with Armin getting caught in an armbar situation to Bruno Ferreira in the second round, and that just was it. It just kind of was like another deflating feeling to watch him lose like that.
Yeah, and it's very deflating for him because maybe this is his last fight in the UFC. Um, he did. He's not a popular fighter. If you see our comment section for the post that we did for Armen Petrosyan's loss, there's a lot of negativity from even Armenians about him, um, and fans weren't pleased with him during his loss to Bruno because they kept saying that he was cheating from his repeated fouls, and some were even saying that there was an attempt to con a referee during the fight. And
Hmm.
what was interesting to me is he had um, he after the fight, he went on social media and posted like very happy pictures of himself with Dana White. I don't know if that photo happened like after the fight or it was an old picture. I don't know. It was very bizarre.
It was a collection of photos, not
Yeah.
just that. It was also some photos with family and friends, it looked like, enjoying themselves in Vegas, which I mean, I don't blame them at all, but you just lost a submission result, and I don't know. It's just kind of weird optics. I agree with you.
And he's 34 years old now. He's lost 4 of his last 6 fights.
Yeah,
Uh,
maybe it's an indication that he's at peace with it, really.
maybe, or maybe he's trying to get back on Dana's good side so he can sign another contract. But we've talked about there's a lot of other Armenians right now, I think, deserving the UFC contract. In other different promotions, we've talked about David Magoyan and Barkev Khachaturian.
Yeah.
Uh, I think this might be the end for Armen Petrosyan. Unfortunately, not the ending that Armenians around the world wanted to see.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the world of lacrosse. Now, this is interesting. We've interviewed Johnny Muradian, president of Armenian Lacrosse, 9-time NLL All-Star, National Lacrosse League All-Star. He's a lacrosse legend up in Canada, and he's an Armenian. So he wanted to bring the sport of lacrosse to Armenia, and he's done it very rapidly. In about a year and a half, 2 years, he was able to host clinics in Armenia to introduce the sport to children there. One, he was able to assemble a team of mostly diasporan Armenians, and they competed in the tournament over the summer in the Balkans, finished second place in that tournament. And then number 3, he helped Armenia get admitted to the World Lacrosse Federation.
Yeah.
And 3, check, check, check. And then what did he do this weekend? He enlisted his team of Armenians, mostly diasporan Armenians, all diasporan Armenians, to a tournament in Portugal called the EuroLax Sixes, and Armenia finished 3rd place. And they had the best record in the tournament, 5-1, tied with 2 other countries, Switzerland, who had 2 teams in the tournament, red and white. I believe they were tied with Switzerland white, and the Netherlands. They all finished 5-1 because Armenia had the worst goal differential from those 3 countries. They didn't advance to the championship. But regardless, an incredible performance, 3rd place finish. And it's just Armenia lacrosse. I did not have Armenia lacrosse being good.
Right?
On my 2025 bingo card. But here they are. They're legit. They're for real, and it's going to be interesting to see. Lacrosse is an Olympic sport in 2028, Jason. We might see Armenia, the first Armenian team to make it into the Olympics. Can it be lacrosse?
Who knows? And I feel like there is more to come, right? There's more Armenian lacrosse players out there, I'm very sure, that couldn't make it to this tournament. And this is an indication that Armenia is a serious player in the world of lacrosse, at least in this preliminary stage, because, like you said, they're so young, and yet they've completed and competed and achieved so much in such little time.
Yes. And there are, I don't have it right in front of me, but they have couple of other tournaments coming up this summer, and they're actually sanctioned World Lacrosse tournaments, which I think have bearing on the qualification. Which
Right.
I think in those tournaments the players they use have to have like Armenian citizenship. They can't just gather a group of Armenian diasporans. So that's going to be the challenge, making sure these guys get citizenship and so they can officially be on the squad. So there will be some challenges there, but it's definitely a step in the right direction when you're beating some pretty impressive countries like Netherlands and Portugal. And again, I don't really follow lacrosse until now. I don't know how good Netherlands and Portugal are at lacrosse, but Armenia beat them. Armenia beat Portugal. They did not beat the Netherlands. They beat Switzerland, and they beat France as well. So I mean, those are assuming U.S. and Canada are the top 2 lacrosse teams in the world. So I don't know where Armenia ranks among the European nations, but if they are maybe top 12 in the world, then they can qualify for the Olympics. We'll see.
That would be, that could be the path, right? And there's a little bit of time for that. Like you said, there's tournaments coming up that we're going to be covering in the summer. And if they do well, like you said, the ranks, they're going to continue to climb. And it could be the first team sport. It could be before soccer, which would be just amazing.
Yeah, I mean it is amazing, and I you got to give a shout out to the two brothers in the tournament, Declan and Nick Palangian. They were absolutely phenomenal for Armenia. Um,
Yeah.
Pulling up the stats here, Declan scored. I don't know if this is updated. Let me look at these standings. It's not updated, but they did a bad job updating this website. But he scored, yeah, in 6 games. It is updated. In 6 games, Declan Palangian scored 23 goals. His brother Nick Palangian scored 15 goals in those 6 games. It's combined 38 goals from the brothers, um,
Wow.
who are Boston based. And also, but they weren't even the leading scorers. Aratayan, he scored 24 goals. So they got a fun team. They beat
Yeah,
Luxembourg
they got a lot of
22 to
talent
6.
and like interesting just characters. Learning about new Armenians, especially like you said, a lot of diasporan Armenians, especially from the East Coast. It's cool to learn about this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And in men's sixes, uh, they have a whole rankings as well, but
Hmm.
I can't find it. Anyway, it's exciting. It's exciting time for Armenian lacrosse, and it's very impressive to see how quickly it's grown. Now let's go back to let's shift gears to a more traditional sport that Armenia has dominated over the years, the sport of wrestling. This week was the Under-23 European Wrestling Championships in Tirana, Albania. And
Yeah.
already in the first few days of the tournament, Armenians are making headlines. First, we saw an Armenian from representing who usually represented Russia, but because Russia is banned from these competitions, he was an unaffiliated athlete,
Yeah. Not
um,
under a flag.
not under a flag. Arsen Balayan. He won gold medal against a Azerbaijani opponent, Farid Jabarov, in I want to see the 60, the
It was in the 79
79,
kilogram freestyle,
79
and it
kilogram
was
freestyle.
yeah 5-1 was the final score of that match.
And in the semifinals, he beat a Turk, Metehan Yaprak. So that's an
Yeah.
incredible road, beating a Turk and then an Azerbaijani in the semis and the finals respectively to win gold medal. So
Yeah.
he'll have that's pretty incredible. And then we're recording this again Monday, March 10. Today, Monday, March 10, an Armenian representing Armenia won gold in the 61 kilogram. Levik
Yep.
Mikhailyan beat an Azerbaijani, Jehun Alaverdiev. And the freestyle competition's over, and you had two Armenians win gold. How incredible is that?
That's just phenomenal, I would say. I would say that just not just them winning gold, but obviously the implications behind it, them beating the opponents that they beat. And it's the U23, European Championships. The next step is the senior championships. So it's good to see Armenia winning the gold medals instead of, settling for those bronze repechage matches. I don't even know how to pronounce
Repechage.
that word.
Yeah.
Repechage.
Right now, the team's unaffiliated fighters have 7 golds, which are mostly Russians and Belarusians.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the only other nations to have 1 gold in the tournament are Armenia, Bulgaria, and Azerbaijan. So pretty impressive. Azerbaijan has 8 other silvers and bronzes, but I mean, if you ain't first, you're last, right?
Right.
You had Armenian won silver, Kenyaz Iboyan in the 92 kilogram division.
Hmm.
And an Armenian representing Ukraine, Narek Bohosyan, finished with the bronze in the 70 kilogram. And I believe yes, Khatchaturian in the 125 kilogram. He got bronze in that division. So Armenia doing well so far. Now the Greco-Roman is going to begin, and
Yeah,
we'll see
that's gonna be fun too.
that'll be fun as well. Again, these are under 23 European, but it's the future of Armenian wrestling right here.
Yep.
All right, Jason,
Yeah.
what are we talking about next?
Well, I guess we're gonna move on to kind of what happened this weekend, and that was a really nice event put on by Homenetmen to Glendale Ararat. and the Keron Foundation at the Burbank Tennis Center with Elina Avanesyan, who put a meet and greet and a tennis clinic and an exhibition match. She played two young up and coming tennis players. One, her name is Tiffany Papazian, who she's in college but plays tennis outside of college and also for school. But she also played against Christina Nordikian, who we've interviewed on the ASN podcast. And she is in the University of San Diego, and she actually came to this exhibition match in between her seasons. So in between two matches, she drove down or drove up actually to Los Angeles to compete and then come back down to San Diego to continue on with her season. But again, pretty nice turnout. It looked like more than 100 people were there for sure to go and see Elina Avanesyan. A lot of kids were out there. It was emceed by Anna Khatchaturian from the Armenian Report, and she was very excited. She's a very big Elina Avanesyan fan. But something that was really cool that happened was again that exhibition match. But a couple days before it even happened, I got a message from Christina Nordikian's sister, who actually congratulated me and thanked me because our interview on ASN led to the committee of Homenetmen picking Christina to be part of that exhibition match. They used that interview as credibility in picking her, and they were just saying thank you so much for all the work. So, talk about the impact that we had, but also just the impact that this event overall has had too.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's really cool to hear. And Christina is obviously a young up and coming tennis player, and we interviewed her as well along with Alina, and you can see both of those interviews on our YouTube page. And it's nice to see that our work is helping give positive impact to Armenian athletes. That's it's not our work. We didn't really do anything, Jason. They're the athletes. They're the ones putting all the effort in, but it's cool to have a little small part in that, and it's nice of
Yeah.
her sister to say that to you. That's really awesome. And it looked like there were a lot of kids there, and they all had a good time, and it's really nice to see that Armenians, especially Armenian female athletes. It is the month of March, Women's Month, and Saturday was International Women's Day, and we're seeing these young Armenian athletes really shine in the world of sports. When I want to say maybe when I was growing up, maybe it was not very common for Armenian girls to get into sports. It was, the parents wouldn't put their girls into sports, and now they are, and they're succeeding and they're thriving, and it's really nice to see. We've seen so many great stories of Armenian female athletes over the last few years. There's a whole movie right now called Reverse Side of the Medal. If you haven't seen it, go see it. It's about Nazik Avdalyan. She won. There's a world champion in weightlifting and had a crazy story where she had severe injury and then came back, and um, and this is we didn't see stories like this very often 20, 30 years ago, and now we're seeing it. And in the diaspora as well, we have UFC fighters, Armenian, Caitlin Chukagian. We're seeing bare knuckle boxing champions in Agnesa Kirakosian, and many, many more.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's just individual team, even team sports, right? The women's national team for soccer is also achieving some historic, achievements, like the first woman to score a hat trick for Armenia, Laura Kazanjian, which, it's a nice way to transition to some of the interviews that are coming up for, Women's Month. Laura Kazanjian is one of those interviews that is going to be coming up, and she does talk about scoring that hat trick. She also talks about winning back-to-back games for Armenia, which also hadn't ever been done. So it was a historic period for, even women's team sports too.
Yeah. And you mentioned it. You hit the head on the nail with the hammer. You talked. We have several interviews with Armenian female sports stars this month in honor of Women's Month. One of them is Lara Kazanjian. We spoke with Savannah Taylor already. That interview's on our YouTube page. She is a defender on the Armenian national football team. We have obviously spoke to Elina Avanesyan. We spoke with Christina Nordikian, tennis stars. And I spoke with Allison Halverson, track and field star who tried to compete for the Olympics in 2024. That's an amazing story of someone didn't let who defeated adversity in many different ways. She got pregnant. She had a family. Despite that, still trained for the Olympics. Didn't make the Olympics, and then used that heartbreak from not making the Olympics and channeled it to another tournament, which was the International World Decathlon Championship, and won that and became the world champion in decathlon. It's an incredible story. That interview will be
Yeah.
up as well. And also Telma Gazarian, she's an ultra marathon runner. We spoke with her. So we're just
Yeah.
two guys here, but we love what we're seeing. We love what we're seeing with women's sports in Armenia, and we can't wait to see what's next.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the only ways up.
And what else are we going to talk about today, Jason? We want to give out some accolades we do this all the time on our podcast, Athlete of the Week, even though this podcast isn't weekly. But we want to give a shout out.
Yeah.
Jason, who do you want to give a shout out to today?
Yeah, I guess, it'd be nice to give a shout out to, fellow NFL offensive lineman, right? Patrick
Hello, are
McCarry.
you an NFL offensive lineman where you're saying the NFL?
Some have said I've been built like one, even though I'm 5'6". But yeah, no. He again was undrafted. Was with the Baltimore Ravens for his entire NFL career until now, because he's going to the Jacksonville Jaguars on a 3-year contract. That's going to be quite interesting to see him there. He was starting to grow as a staple for the Baltimore Ravens, starting a lot of games. I think he started in 17 matches last season, so he was always involved pretty much. And now, as a free agent, he picks Jacksonville, and it'll be interesting to see how he does with the new threads.
Yeah, I mean, he's taking his talents from Baltimore to Jacksonville. Jacksonville, obviously, one of the more disappointing franchises in the NFL. They drafted Trevor Lawrence #1 overall, and they just haven't seen him take it to the next level. They finished 4-13 last season, and had one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. They finished, according to Pro Football Focus, 19th in pass blocking, and in run blocking they were 21st. So Patrick McCarry hopefully will help them in the offensive line, give Trevor Lawrence some protection, and get that team back together. It wasn't very long ago the Jaguars had a 10-point lead in the AFC Championship, Jason, with Blaine Gabbert as quarterback. Or sorry, Blake Bortles as quarterback. Wait. And they blew the lead to the Patriots. But we'll see if Patrick McCarry can help that offense get back to. I mean, they have a good quarterback. Maybe he just needs some protection, and maybe Patrick can be that guy for him.
Maybe that'll definitely be something that we keep an eye on for this upcoming NFL season. What about you, Andre? Who do you got?
I'm gonna give my shout out this week to Cooper Malamazian. He is a baseball player for the University of Indiana, and he was this week's Big Ten Freshman of the Week after an incredible performance. He had 4 doubles for Indiana on Friday, I believe, against UCLA in a blowout victory. Those 4 doubles set an Indiana freshman record. And he's a young kid. He was drafted by the Milwaukee Brewers in the MLB draft last year. Obviously he hasn't been signed by the Brewers yet. He's on he's playing for the University of Indiana, or actually it's the Indiana University. I apologize.
Indiana University. Okay.
It's not the University of Indiana. The more you know. He's playing college baseball right now. He's a freshman. He's not getting a lot of playing time, but when he is, he's ripping the ball. He's having a fantastic start to his collegiate career, hitting 440, which if you don't follow baseball, that means he's getting hits 44% of his at-bats. And usually 30% is considered really, really good, and he's going 44%. So 11 hits and 25 at-bats. That's my shout-out. Cooper Malamazian of the Milwaukee Brewers and the Indiana University Hoosiers.
I love it. love seeing Armenians in baseball. We got more and more talent coming in out from that sport than we think, right? Even the
Yeah.
Hakopian brothers are kicking
Hakopian brothers, yes. And
butt.
one of the brothers used a Armenian song as their walk-up song this week. Should go
That's
check that
right.
out on our page. But that's all we have for you this week, Jason. Very fun week of Armenian sports, and we have a lot to come. We'll come back next week. We'll preview Armenia versus Georgia, UEFA Nations League. If Armenia somehow can manage to beat Georgia in these two games, they will advance to League B, which will be a miracle, right?
It'll be a Khingali party, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, because considering what they went through, firing their coach, hiring a new one.
It would be remarkable. Truly, it would be one of the stories of the year for the sport if Armenia come up with that upset.
Yeah, and they'll do it without Edward Spertsian, who is out
Right.
with injury. So we'll see what happens, and we will talk about more of that game next week. Until then, I'm Andre Khatchaturian. He's Jason Takhtadjian. This is the Armenian Sports News Podcast. An incredible show. See you next time.